Joining me now, senior congressional correspondent Rachel Scott. She's in Georgia with former President Donald Trump on the campaign all the time, Rachel, and I want to ask you about that. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, these were very striking comments, Terry, from President Biden, saying that he believes it will be fair and free, but he is not 100% certain that it's going to be peaceful. Of course, we all remember the violence that unfolded on January 6th, where you had rioters storming the Capitol of the United States. You had members of Congress trying to certify the election results, and they were hiding under their desks. Obviously, we saw those chaotic moments that played out. What's interesting here is the stark contrast that we are seeing between President Biden and former President Donald Trump. Former President Donald Trump was asked a very similar question just a few months ago, and he said that violence after the election depends on the fairness, sort of leaving open the possibility for what was going to happen. The former president today is here in Georgia. He's going to be here with Governor Brian Kemp doing an event after they survey some of the storm damage. It's unclear whether or not he's going to take questions, but these are two different messages that we are seeing, obviously coming from President Biden and former President Donald Trump, and very striking words today from President Biden himself.
Yeah, Rachel, I want to follow up on that, where you are, that President Trump, former President Trump, he is scheduled to talk with Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia. Look, 4 years ago, it was Trump who was out there saying they stole the election in Georgia. And the Republican governor of Georgia, Kemp, was saying they didn't steal it. Our election's been fair. The count is real, and you lost. Now they're going to campaign together. What are you expecting?
Yeah, and it's fascinating to see these comments from President Biden coming on the same exact day where we are seeing Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, alongside former President Donald Trump for the first time in years. These two men have not been publicly out together since, by our count, I believe it's around 2020. And so here you had Brian Kemp immediately after the election, after Georgia had already counted the ballots, including by hand, come out and say that former President Donald Trump lost this election. And now you have the former president. He is still not willing to admit that he lost the 2020 election. He still pushes false claims about the 2020 election at almost every rally that I go to. It was just months ago that he was attacking Brian Kemp, furious that Brian Kemp took this position. He was going not only after him, but he was going after his wife. Brian Kemp has come back around. He's now endorsed former President Donald Trump. And while today's event is focused on the storm damage here, and I'm sure they're going to be talking about getting resources to this community that desperately needs it, it is going to be very fascinating to see someone who was just attacking the governor of this critical battleground state now standing side by side with him at this event today, Terry.
Yeah, it sure is. You'll have a front row seat to that. And as you have at so many rallies, including the one in Butler, Pennsylvania, where President Trump, former President Trump, is going back there. That was obviously the rally where he took wounded by a bullet, by an assassin's bullet. Two other people were killed, others injured. First, I don't know, are you going to be in Butler? And second, just tell me what you think about him going back.
Yes, Terry. So, in fact, right after we wrap up here in Georgia, I will be flying to Butler, Pennsylvania tomorrow, and we will be returning back to the same exact place we were just months ago when we heard those shots ring out, an attempted assassination on the former president, where you had that gunman that was on a rooftop that was just a few hundred yards away from the former president of the United States and all of us. I've been thinking a lot about it as we prepare to go back. We were just 100 feet away from Donald Trump at the time, and initially you heard these loud popping sounds. It sounded like gunfire, but the possibility and the thought that this would actually be occurring at a rally with the former president that's surrounded by Secret Service was one that I think many people just didn't think would actually happen. We dove for cover. We watched as people did the same. And then you had the former president surrounded by Secret Service. He had blood coming down from his ear. He raised that fist, saying the words fight, fight, fight. That is an image now that I see at every single campaign rally that I go to. Even on our press placards, when we check in, we're giving these little press placards, press badges. They print that image on there as well. People are walking around with those shirts saying that fight, 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 the same words that the former president said after Butler. So this is going to be a return, and this is really the message from the former president in his campaign. They want to be painted as a fighter, that they are not going to be deterred or defined by this particular instance. He'll be joined by Senator J.D. Vance. Elon Musk says that he'll be there as well. They're sending out fundraising texts encouraging their supporters to come, so we're expecting a pretty massive crowd as the former president returns back to that very same area where there was that attempt on his life.
It is going to be a moment, and how everyone feels about the election, it's a good thing to go back to that place and to claim it again for Democratic activity, still campaigning. Rachel, thank you. Let me bring in our Mary Alice Parks, who is covering the Harris campaign for us. So there you are in Flint, where she's going to have a rally later. She hasn't been on the campaign trail as much, it feels like, recently. What's going on?
Right, she's been back in Washington, D.C. working on the hurricane response effort. Look, she has this event here in Flint. It's about an hour north of Detroit. She had an event earlier today in Detroit. This is her fourth visit to Michigan since launching her presidential campaign. Her first rally here in Flint. I can tell you there's still several hours before this event, but it's a big stadium. They are hoping to fill long lines, blocks long, outside the event with people waiting to get in. Terry, two things really stick out to me about this event. One, the focus on the union vote. We know that UAW President Shawn Fain is going to be appearing here in Flint with Harris, supporting her, of course, his union backing her. He's been a strong supporter of her. It matters a whole lot outside Detroit, this crucial battleground state where, of course, the auto worker union vote comes with a lot of political muscle, a lot of organizing power. So he's really sort of continuing to lend his support and his union support to the Harris campaign. The other thing really interesting, we are told that before this event, she is going to be talking to a few Arab American leaders. It seems to be mostly people who have previously endorsed her or who her campaign's been in contact with. But again, that Arab American vote could also be a decisive factor here in the state of Michigan. I'm thinking back to the Democratic primary when we know that that uncommitted vote garnered about 100,000 votes in the Democratic Party. This is a state that President Biden only won by about 160,000 votes back in 2020. So, of course, that Arab American vote and those who are voting sort of in protest or might be considering voting in protest against the Biden administration's support of Israel could be a major factor, too, here in this state, Terry.
Absolutely. In an election where every vote counts. Mary Alice Parks, Rachel Scott, thanks to both of you.